Hey everybody, what's up, Casanova? What's the matter, Bubby? You good? Welcome to the D. Louise book series. I'm Christina Kristina. What? You want to come here? No? Make up your mind. Hello. Okay. So, this is where we read books and talk about books. There's no special effects. There's no theme music. Don't step on my computer. And so I need your likes and subscribes. I've got this fantasy of hitting 1,000 subscribers by Christmas. I know it's a big fantasy. Those of you who've already subscribed, thank you. I need 900 more if you could spare. Don't walk on my computer, Casanova. So this was different. What did I do with that? It's the first book. Steve Berry, The Bishop's Pawn, and it's the first book that I've read of Steve Berry's that is from one point of view. They're usually doing 3 or 4 different points of view, and I'm having to keep pounds of notes. This is from one point of view, Cotton's. The whole book is, don't step on my computer, is from Cotton's point of view. So I was a little confused in the beginning, but it's later explained because they are, he's working, this is his origins. We've heard about his ancestors' origins, Angus in the other book, but this is his little bit of origins. He's a lieutenant commander in the U.S. Navy assigned to a judge advocate general. He's a lawyer, and he's currently married at this time to Pam, but their marriage is on the rocks. And he's been hired by Bob Wheeler to investigate his wife for having an affair, and he does discover this, and Bob says he wants documents to take to court. And in the midst of all this, circumstances arise that Bob confronts Sue, and Sue shoots Bob, and Cotton shoots Sue. And then Stephanie comes in and hires him and gets him out of the, I think he works for, I don't know what happens after this book, but at this point, he works for the Justice Department for about 48 hours, a very long 48 hours. And we'll have to see what happens in the next book, how he ends up working for Stephanie full time. But at the end of this book, he goes back to his job with the Navy. But so Stephanie comes to him and says that she wants him to retrieve a coin. So I'm trying to figure out what the coin has to do with Mr. King here. Okay? She wants him to find 1933 double eagle. It's the rarest coin in the world, 90% gold, 10% copper. Millions of double eagles were struck from 1850 to 1832. Oh, I got my buddy. Here he is, right here. They're America's gold pieces, and they're still prevalent in the coin market. But in 1933, something different happened. 445,000 double eagles were struck that year, but none of those were ever issued to the public. FDR banned the private holding of gold in April 1933. Since the coins have already been produced, what then happened? They were simply held at Philadelphia Mint and eventually melted down. And she explains further that there are 5 known to be in existence. Well, 20 that we know of. Best guess is they were stolen by an employee in the Philadelphia Mint who sold them to a local jeweler who sold them to collectors until the Secret Service got wind of it in 1944. Eventually, 19 of the coins were reclaimed, and the last one, that's where you come in. And she wants him to go get the coin. That's her story. Um, oh, I've heard this before. Oh, I can't remember now. It was one of those, it's one of those fairy tale fable things. Oh, you'll know it. Oh, it's gonna drive me crazy now that I thought about it because I didn't think about it before I started this video. Um, that he accounted for all the stuff, all the questions. Oh, I forget that story. Oh, it's gonna drive me bonkers now. I forget. Um, that the guy wanted to figure out all the stuff that would keep him safe and all the questions and oh, stop. I forgot. But anyways, let's move on with the book. So, we got some characters in here. I wrote them down. So, what's 70? All right, I'm getting off track here. I am sorry. That's gonna drive me crazy about that other thing. So, all right, that's too far. That's too far. So, Stephanie hires Cotton to go get the coin. And what happened was the guy that had the coin was involved in a little bit of a shipwreck, and his ship sunk down there, not quite Bermuda Triangle area, but down there. And so he goes down to Florida, and apparently he was a diver in the Navy for a very, very short period of time. So he dives down to the boat and retrieves the black case that supposedly has the coin in it. And apparently, he does not know this at the time, but it is later revealed that the person that took him to the dive spot, the boat driver, was in on it. That he was against, he was just using Cotton to retrieve the coin, the case. And apparently, the reason why it was so heavy was someone put lead weights in there too. And they're thinking that the case might contain something else besides the coin. So they come after him. They try to kill him at the boat. He's told that he has to use the case to exchange for the coin. So he takes the case that he found and he meets Colleen Perry, who has possession of the coin. Apparently, it was not in that black case. For the black case, she will exchange the coin for the black case. And the whole time, it's about this black case and what's in it, and it gets a little confusing. There's a lot of James Bond type experiences in this, a lot of Jason Bourne chases in this. So one thing leads to another, and him and Colleen end up in a couple of situations, and then they find out that Juan Lopez Valdez has come to ask for the coin. He has Cotton's wallet, and he knows who Cotton is, and he tells the guy that he left the files on the seaplane, and that Jim Jansen, the guy that was the boat driver, has the file. And it's so, I'm not even going to try and do this. I'm going to stop here. All right, so it's just a lot. So we have some other players that come into this. So the whole first part of the book, it's all about the search for the coin. That's all we hear about is the coin. Once the black box is retrieved, then it becomes about whatever's in the black box, case, suitcase, whatever you call it. So, one thing leads to another, and Valdez was the guy in Cuba who come to this country, and he has he knows what's in that black case. He was the original owner of the black case, and he was coming to meet Colleen, and he was going to give her the black case in exchange for the coin, because the coin is worth $1 million, and he needs the money back in Cuba. And like I said, one thing leads to another, and they end up at Colleen's father's house. And I have his name. He's the Reverend Benjamin Foster of the Christian Faith Baptist Church. Okay. And it's later revealed that a lot of this is his fault. And his daughter is trying to keep him safe by exchanging the coin for the documents. She does not know what the documents say, but she wants to get the documents because she feels, or intuition, that these documents could hurt her father. So she's going to give Valdez the coin for the papers, but like I said, things go 6 ways to Sunday, and they end up at her father's house. And her father does not want her to know what it was. And her father is intent the whole book. And you're thinking that circumstances may have been different. You just sat on all my notes. Circumstances may have been different, and things may not have gone the way they go in the book if Benjamin Foster told his daughter the truth from the get-go. But no, he's so intent on keeping his secret that he's going to cost several people, spoiler alert, their lives. All right, so I wanted to bring up, because Mr. Berry puts a lot of historical information in here, a lot. And I like that he explains it all in the author's notes at the end of the book. I like when authors do that. Victoria Thompson does that a lot, and I like it. She explains stuff that really happened during this particular time period. She used it to flow the story. So anyways, Mr. Foster takes Cotton aside to have a private convo because he doesn't want his daughter to know XYZ. And it's really irritating as life as, but anyways. So he takes Cotton aside and he takes him down and he shows him this landmark. And apparently it's true and it does exist. He says, do you know about the 1928 hurricane? I'm not from Florida. I'm a Georgia boy born and bred. The storm came on September 16th, a Category 4, 140 miles per hour. It hit the lake and destroyed a levee, which flooded all of the surrounding low-lying communities with 20 feet of water. Can you imagine 20 feet underwater? This place was totally segregated in those days. The East Shore was for whites, the South and West near the Everglades for blacks. Most of the dead were black migrant farm workers who lived in those line-laying western communities. Over 3,000 died. He paused for a moment. That was a horrible thing, but what happened after was much worse. I wondered how that could be. It was warm weather, so the bodies began to decompose in swamps. The whites forced the black survivors to recover those bodies. The ones who worked were fed. The others either starved or were shot. Coffins were scarce, so only the bodies of white victims were allowed to be buried in the cemeteries. The black victims were piled on the side of the road, doused with fuel, and burned. The white authorities bulldozed 674 black victims into a mass grave in West Palm Beach. That grave was never marked. The site was later sold and used as a garbage dump, a slaughterhouse, and a sewage treatment plant. Only recently has it been repurchased and the sacred ground protected. I helped make that happen. I didn't know what to say. Here in this cemetery is another mass grave of those migrant workers. He crossed the cemetery to a stone marker. Excuse me. In memoriam to the 1,600 pioneers in this mass burial who gave their lives in the 1920 hurricane so that the glades might be as we know it today. So, here they rest, a testament to another time. But I wonder, Lieutenant Malone, have things changed all that much? Of course they have, I said. Do you believe that? Your in-laws live on the East Shore now. How do you know they're not white? If that's the case, then things really have changed. He grinned. Perhaps you're right. A travesty such as what happened in 1928 would not happen today. At least not in the same way. Society has learned to be less obvious with its prejudice. I didn't want to touch that one, and he went silent for a few moments. I appreciate you helping my daughter escape Fort Jefferson. She was too impetuous for her own good. I found the double eagle in my pocket and handed it to him. She said, "This is yours. Please, you keep it. It belongs to you." He shook his head. "It belongs to the devil." That was a weird observation, but I respected his wishes and repocketed the coin. At least I'd offered. Did my daughter read any of those files in that case? I shook my head. We never had the chance. That's good. I want them destroyed. Is that why you made the deal to trade for the coin? I didn't make the deal, Lieutenant Malone. Valdez contacted me and asked for a trade. I refused. Did you know him? He shook his head. Never met him. But he knew me or enough about me that I listened to what he had to say. I was shocked he even knew I had the coin. I didn't realize that Colleen had listened in on my conversation. She went behind me and learned Valdez's phone number. She made the contact and made the deal on her own. So then we learn that there was a counterintelligence program. She says it might mean Martin Luther King. They go to her house. We did the history thing. We did the pioneers. Reverend Foster's version of the day King died is a little different. Let's see. April 4th, 1968 loomed cool and cloudy in Memphis on the city's industrial south side. The Lorraine Motel, a local fixture, sat quiet among former cotton lofts and old brick warehouses, 5 blocks south of Beale Street, not far from the Memphis River. On that day, room 306, which oddly was situated on the second floor, was occupied by Martin Luther King and his closest friend in the world, Ralph Abernathy. The Lorraine was their favorite Memphis hangout. It was black-owned and family-operated, hosting the likes of Count Basie, Otis Redding, Ray Charles, Aretha Franklin, and Louis Armstrong. A room came for $13 a night, but not for King. The owners never charged him. In fact, King and Abernathy stayed in room 306 so much that it acquired the label of the King Abernathy Suite. But the room wasn't all that much, just a simple wood panel rectangle, twin beds, a TV, a contemporary furniture, and a phone. Memphis was turning into a national problem. 2 black union garbage workers had died in a tragic on-the-job accident after being forced to work in bad weather. Those deaths triggered a citywide strike that quickly escalated into a race struggle since all of the sanitation workers were black. King came to town on March 28 and spoke to 15,000 people at a union rally. He then led a march downtown that quickly turned violent, shocking him. It also called into question his leadership. He was deep in planning a massive Poor People's March on Washington, D.C. for the summer of '69, and the media began to wonder about the wisdom of such a huge demonstration. To prove that he could lead a peaceful gathering, King had returned to Memphis. April 4th was hectic. All afternoon on the 4th, King had seemed distracted, not as focused as in days past. Most attributed it to a head cold he contracted, but anxiety also hung in the air over what was happening in federal court. As the lawyers were trying to overturn the injunction, a little after 6 p.m., King and his entourage were scheduled to have dinner at a local minister's home. A feast of roast beef, canned yams, pig's feet, neck bones, chitlins, and turnip grease, soul food, all of King's favorites. At that time was fast approaching. At 5 p.m., one of King's lieutenants, Andrew Young, arrived in room 306 with good news. The federal judge had modified the junction to allow for a limited demonstration on April 8th, 4 days hence. There were conditions, but none operative, and the news immediately put King in a better mood. He retired to the bathroom to shave and ready himself for dinner. At 15 minutes before 6, after dressing, in a clean shirt, he left the room and walked onto the balcony. So, there's a lot here to unpack. Once Cotton gets enough information, he does call Steffi, and tells her he has the files. And I'm not sure, I'm a little ups. How do I put this? I'm disappointed by the end of this book, and it's a little spoiler, it's a little early for me to go there, but by the end of this book, Cotton has everything. And he doesn't tell Steph, his boss, that he has everything. I'm not sure what he's going to do with that, although, according to this book, nothing. He hangs on to that stuff for over 20 years. I'm a little upset that he did that, but he does. There's a lot of information in here about Eric S. Galt, or famously known as James Earl Grey. There's a lot of FBI files that are transcribed in here, or supposed, who knows. It's all revealed in the author's notes at the end. He also meets the woman that typed all those notes, and her and her husband have additional information about those notes and what happened. And we get Dan Veteran, director of the intelligence branch of the FBI. He gets involved in it, and he is not a good guy. He's a bad guy. And like I said before, the point of view of the book is all from Cotton. It was easier to follow. Sometimes I have a hard time with the other books, but I'm gonna go on reading with the Steve Berry books because they're really interesting. So there's quite a bit that goes on in this book. Oh, shoot. Casanova. I just had a cat fight. I just don't know what else to. I took so much notes, but a couple people fake their deaths. A couple people get away, but the main story is the coin and the documents that they're connected. You don't really see it in the beginning. It takes a while for the connection to be made, but and then there's a big shootout in Disney World in Florida, World, or I forget. But it's definitely a good book to check out. It was a good, quick read. I was involved in it. I spent most of the first half of it anyway, trying to figure out what the coin had to do with Martin Luther King. But later, I figured out that there was a spy, and the spy said, "If I'm going to do this, you're going to give me $1 million." So he was given the coin. And that person is probably the reason why several other people are deceased by the end of the book, because he refused to tell the truth. He refused. He was trying to save one person, and he ended up getting 4, 5, 6 people killed because he was trying to protect himself. And and I'm also upset with Cotton for not divulging all that stuff, but he didn't want to bring it up. But there's so much in here that's true. It's so interesting. You should really check it out. But I like the author's notes in the back. The counterintelligence information. Um, all the traveling he did himself. Steve Berry did all the locations he mapped up. Um, the 1933 double eagle mentioned throughout the novel exists. The coin is the rarest and most valuable in the world, worth many millions, and it remains illegal for anyone to possess or sell one. Nearly all of the missing coins have been accounted for, but nobody really knows how many coins disappeared in 1933. If you'd like to see firsthand, visit the National Numismatic Museum collection in person inside the Smithsonian American History Museum in Washington, or online. An excellent book on the subject is Double Eagle by Alison Franco. Sadly, the FBI's counterintelligence intuitive is not a work of fiction. It existed from the late 50s until 72. First designed to root out supposed communist influence, it metamorphed into perhaps the most corrupt and illegal organization ever created by the US government. And there's a lot of stuff about Hoover, possible communist influence in the civil rights movement as a basis for his illegal surveillance to is historic fact, but ran contrary to 1963 internal FBI report, which concluded that no such communist influence existed. As described in the novel, however, Hoover rejected that conclusion, and its author, William Sullivan, in reality Tom Oliver in the novel, changed the report, confirming its findings to Hoover's predetermined and false belief. You gotta check it out. Please hit the like and subscribe. Let me know I'm doing a good job here. Like I said, I've got this fantasy about 1,000 subscribers by Christmas. I'm not too sure. Maybe my buddy here can help me, huh? We'll have to see. But I'm sorry I didn't do this very well. I had all my characters listed, but he's sitting on them. Just a quick nope. I don't know what happened to them. But there's quite a few influential people, but I put all of the blame on Mr. Foster, all of it. And to read why, you'll have to read the book. And I'm also a little annoyed with Cotton for not divulging what he knows, but he's keeping it to himself. So anyways, please hit the like and subscribe. Let me know I'm doing a good job. Thank you. Have a good one.